folks, if you go straight down the hall or the wall, that's where the receiving line is.
about to begin, if I can ask everyone to please be seated. Conducting our service today is Rabbi Paul.
Thank you, Bill. Beloved friends, as we are about to begin this memorial tribute of love to the life and to the love of Yale Kaplan, I'm joined by my colleagues, Rabbi Rachel Heaps and Cantor Susan Lewis Friedman, in this celebration of his life. Before we officially begin the service itself, there's a ritual that we perform. The ritual is called Kriya, and literally that Hebrew word means tearing. When our ancestors heard of the death of a loved one, they would literally tear the article of clothing that they were wearing. It was a sign of grief and sadness, to be sure, but also a sign of the confusion and sometimes even the anger that we feel when someone that we love is taken from our midst. The Kriya ribbon, which we use today, also serves as an outward sign to those that we will encounter in the coming days that indeed there has been a tear in the fabric of our lives. And so without having to say a word, people will see the ribbon and know how to respond accordingly. So that's Mary. Please, if you'll please rise. Your timing is perhaps most difficult to find in this she uses the last two songs.
When I die, give what's left of me away, to children and to old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother. Walking the street beside you, and when you need me, put your arms around anyone. and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live on in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away.
Death has taken our beloved Yale Kaplan. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, and be with them. For Yale's love, which united us in life and which death cannot sever. For his companionship we shared along life's path, and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us the ever-new message of God's nearness. It teaches us of our kinship with the divine. In light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. Psalm 23, the Shepherd's Son.
On the inside of our pamphlets, we read the translation of the 23rd Psalm together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai natan v'Adonai lekach, v'hi shem Adonai mevorach. God has given and God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. An ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us. Yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and that there is strength in faith. With Job, we say, Adonai natan, God, you have given. You gave us a loved one, Yale, Kaplan, who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in his life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai lekach, God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and your love. As we now say, V'hi shem Adonai mevorach. Blessed be the name of God, now and forever. Amen. We invite you to take these next few moments to call forward the cherished memories that each of you has of Yale, of his life, of his love touched each of our hearts in this moment of silent reflection. She doesn't have to leave. I was just looking at Leora as I was introducing this moment of silence and seeing her smile and knowing what great joy she brought to Yale, to everyone, but especially to Yale, great-granddaughter. What a blessing. Yale was blessed in so many ways. Most importantly, he was blessed with family. And so we continue this tribute of love, this celebration of his life, with the words of his family. We'll hear from children, Eric and Lisa and Randy and granddaughter Stacy.
all for being here to honor my dad, and for those friends and family after 62 years. Still don't know who Lisa and I are, can't tell us apart, I'm Randy. There are many things that I am grateful for. I am grateful that my dad treated Lisa, Rick, and I as equal regarding everything, especially regarding sports. At the time, few girls played sports and weren't encouraged to do so. My dad taught me to throw a baseball, shoot a basket, play tennis, and throw a football at an early age. I've always played sports, which has had a profound impact on my life. My dad was a doer and very present in my life as well as in Corey and Stacy's lives from the moment they were born. He and my mom would drive downtown to help with the kids and watch them too numerous times to count when Jim and I wanted a break or went on vacation. Even as an adult, my dad showed up for me when I injured my back and couldn't go to Florida in the Harry Potter amusement park with the kids, with Jim and the kids. I convalesced at their home for a week, and my dad took me downtown several times for my PT appointments with pleasure. As my dad's body began to fail from advanced Parkinson's disease, our relationship shifted and we couldn't do as many activities together. I remember being with my dad, watching the Bears games and doing activities, but less so having the deeper conversations with him that I desired. I recognized that having these conversations wasn't easy for him, but my dad made the effort to know and to see me, and I made the effort to know and see my dad. I told him I so appreciated our most recent conversations. I also understood him better. You'll hear a lot about that my dad was a positive example on how to live a good life. His positive attitude was prevalent throughout his life, even at the end when he knew that his best days had passed. The last time I visited him at his home during hospice care, our caregiver Dante needed some help while caring for him. Dante asked me to hold my dad while he rolled him on his side, and I mentioned that I just came from my PT appointment because I really injured my back and that I needed to be careful. I went onto the bed to help my mom hold him steady. My dad said firmly, "I don't want Randy here." At first, I was taken aback and thought it was about modesty. When I went to leave, I told him I was going home to meet Jim and Corey for dinner. He said rather firmly, "Go." I realized that my dad, even in his late state of life, being lucid and clear-headed, was trying to protect me from further hurting my back. He was thinking of me and not himself until the very end. And that was who he was. I did go back to say goodbye, and I told him I loved him and that I will miss him dearly.
There are many words I can use to describe Zadie. Some of them are kind, caring, thoughtful, loyal, and of course, very competitive with sports. Zadie was so integral to my life growing up, always coming down to Chicago or willing to watch us when my parents needed a well-deserved break. A typical day at their house on New Shore Court would start at 5:30 to 6 a.m. with Zadie serving breakfast in bed to Bubby, a decades-long marital tradition. Corey and I, or whichever cousin was visiting at the time, would jump in the middle of them and try to snag some food off the breakfast tray. Then we would go play tennis with Zadie, or I would go to the beauty salon with Bubby, and then it was off to free breakfast at the Mercedes dealership. Corey loves to tell the story of his first memory at 2.5 years old when he woke up, went to my parents' bedroom, and to his surprise, Zadie was there and not my parents. Zadie excitedly told Corey, "You have a new baby sister. Do you want to go to the hospital and see her?" I've heard the story so many times, I felt like I was actually there. In Zadie's final days, Corey and I were able to tell him the story again on FaceTime, and I know he appreciated hearing it again. Zadie always showed up for our important tennis, soccer matches, recitals, and concerts. Always. He had a funny sense of humor as well. Many years after I got my driver's license, I finally worked up the courage to ask if I could drive his Mercedes. It became apparent that all the other grandchildren had already gotten their turn. His answer came right away. I thought you'd never ask. He was incredibly proud of his family. I remember standing on the bima after just finishing my bat mitzvah speech and looking over to see him wiping tears from his eyes, the first time I had seen him cry. At Zadie's 90th birthday party earlier this year, I watched his eyes well up for the second time in my life as he gave a speech in which he talked about how proud he was of his life and his family. I found it sweet and touching watching him be vulnerable in front of his loved ones in a way I hadn't seen before. I looked around the room and watched my cousin's family and friends wipe tears from their eyes, each of us thinking all the ways he was special to us. Bubby and Zadie always made it a priority for the cousins to be close, planning family trips together to strengthen our bonds. I feel lucky that the 7 cousins are all so close, which I know is what he always wanted. When Bubby and Zadie decided to finally move out of their home of 40+ years on Neutral Court into the Lodge's independent living facility, Zadie told my mom that he didn't care about the move as long as he knew that Bubby was going to be happy there. Just a true testament of his character. He was a true example of loyalty and care. I know I speak for the cousins and everyone in the room that he will be missed dearly.
I'm Lisa. There's a lot I could say about my dad, but I think the one mantra that I will hold forever dear is his talk about the power of positive thinking. I feel like I've had a pretty charmed life that my dad always gave in my mom, but my dad really fostered the belief that anything was possible in life that we could do. And for the most part, that's been true. The last year has been a little tougher for Tom and I with COVID and our businesses. And the one thing that I sort of always took from him is, look on the bright side. We have our health, we have our family, we have our friends. And if you just keep working at it, things will be better and you'll work it out. And I think that's the spirit and energy that I'll continue to take with us, for the rest of my life. He was also a great husband, and I've been around my mom and the caregivers for the last week. And Dante told me that he shared with him some lessons on how to be a good husband, and that was kind of sweet, and that they always held hands and really, we're a good couple. I am grateful also to my mom for taking care of him for 33 years, almost after his first heart attack. They went to the Pritikin Center. My mom cooked for almost over 30 years. No oil, salt, or butter, and actually the food was really pretty good. So Mom, thank you for helping us have him for almost 33 years, more than we could. So for Dad's 67th anniversary, I guess he couldn't go to the store and pick out a card, and when we were cleaning up my mom's place, I found this little piece of paper, and I opened it, and I knew it was special because it didn't have it was a real clean piece of paper. It was a real piece of paper. It didn't have anything on the back of it. It wasn't like recycled. So I knew I should look at this. And it's dated on their anniversary. Dearest Marilyn, from the time I first saw you, at the temple dance, my heart skipped a beat as it does today. You are my one and only love. It took 6 years, 3 proposals, and leaving the army before you said yes. We are blessed with 3 children, 7 wonderful grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild to enjoy. Whatever the future holds for us, we will share it together, my love. Happy 67th, love Yale. So he really cared about my mom, and so anyways, thank you.
Well, my dad said from a very early time, he said, Rick, you can be anything you want as long as you're a doctor first. And he was serious. When I was like 10 years old, he went and bought me a microscope and a dissecting kit. And I remember that even in those days, they didn't have warnings on things, but this one clearly said, you know, for 15 years and above, and I was like 10 years old. And I could understand why, because it came with a scalpel and all these pointy things. And there were these 2 jars. One was a frog and a crustacean in a jar of formaldehyde. And I've always been a queasy kid, and even as an adult, I won't pick up a worm. And I opened this thing up, it's like, what am I supposed to do with it? And the smell of the formaldehyde so traumatized me that when I finally went to medical school, I flunked gross anatomy because I couldn't stand being in the room with the formaldehyde. I had to take it in the summer. But it ended up being good advice, and I am a doctor. Thank God for psychiatry, I can say. And I'm still practicing and don't plan to retire anytime soon. And the second thing is, when Barb and I moved out to, we were new doctors, and we moved out to Denver, and we found out we were having Zach, and I do remember that when I was my mom always tells the story that when I was a toddler, you know, as you know, I'm the oldest boy, and I have 2 identical twin sisters, 2.5 years younger. And when I was giving my mom a hard time, you know, running out the door, throwing my toy guns into the crib, and my mom's holding 2 bottles trying to feed my sisters, she went and cursed me. She said, like, may this happen to you. And sure enough, we moved out to Denver, and we had Zach, and we went to the OB one day and found out we were pregnant, and he said, you're having twins. And Barb broke out crying, and it was not crying with happiness. We were in absolute panic. I mean, we always said that, I think there's an inverse relationship between how educated you are and how easy it is to bring up kids. And with, when we found out we were having twins, Barb was crying, and I would have cried too, but I felt I had to support her. And we went home, and we called my parents, and we said, we're having twins, we don't know what to do. And my dad said, don't worry, it was so easy, it was like a piece of cake. And my mom was on the line, and she said, did we grow up in the same family? That was his way of viewing things. And finally, in his last days, when we brought him home, I saw him smile, had a big smile when Zach brought Leora over. And as lots of you guys know, that my dad really liked the stock market and played the stock market and believed in investing and saving money. And, you know, he was a very frugal guy, but he wanted to pass on money. And if you remember, the 2 days before he died, the market had a real bump, you know, went way up. And I went and said, Dad, this was Wednesday, you know, the market was really up the last 2 days. And he gave me the biggest smile I ever have seen. And the next day he passed away. Thanks.
Albert Einstein once said that coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. I like that very much. And it is no coincidence that we are remembering Yale's life during the festival of Sukkot. Sukkot is identified in many different ways. One of the ways it's identified is Zman Simchatinu, the time of our rejoicing. And truly, this is an opportunity to rejoice in a life so well lived. One of the things that has stood out to me over these last several days, what I knew about Yale and what I learned about Yale, is that he was very grateful for the life that he lived, and felt as, even though his family and friends were not ready, that he felt ready, and recognized that his life had been a blessing. And as has been pointed out, bonus years, some 30 plus years, almost 4 decades, bonus years, that he took great advantage of, and did not take them for granted. Zman Simchatinu, a time for us to rejoice in the gift of Yale's life and what he meant to each and every one of us. There is a passage from Pirkei Avot, which is a part of the Mishnah, really the first layer of commentary on the 5 books of Moses. And in this last chapter, Pirkei Avot, it's not so much about law, but about how to judge a life, how to live a life. And one of the better known pieces is attributed to a teacher whose name was Ben Zoma. And Ben Zoma asks a series of 4 questions, and in the as rabbis are wont to do, not only to ask the questions, but then to answer the questions. So Ben Zoma asks, who is wise? The answer is the one who is able to learn from everyone and in every situation. Who is rich? The one who is satisfied with what they have. Who is honored? The person who honors others. And who is strong? The one who is able to harness their own inclinations. Yale was rich and wise and honored and strong. Who is wise? The one who learns from all. A rabbi once called Yale's parents, Francis and Ben, wondering why he was not at religious school. And they went to Yale, and he said, well, I've been going to Sunday school. How can this be? The rabbi says you're not there, and you say you're going there. What's going on? It turns out he was going to church Sunday school. He had just gone into the wrong building. But he was able to learn there as well. Yale grew up in very humble origins, a child of the Depression. He learned on the job as his father became ill to become the man of the house, to ultimately become the patriarch of the family. He was mentally always very sharp. He learned not only the power of positive thinking and not only the art of the sail, but he learned the waterproofing business from his brother-in-law, Hal, who actually took him into the business to keep him from moving to California. And it was a position that was not gifted to him. He earned that position with the company and excelled, and was very grateful for the opportunity to do so. He used to say, when it rains money. That's the waterproofing business. He was very, very connected to his Jewish heritage. He led Passover, his Seder's. Holidays were a priority, attending services here at Temple Jeremiah when he and Marilyn joined the congregation. Who is strong? The one who is in control of his inclinations. Yale, as you've heard, was a talented athlete. He ran track in high school, and I understand that even at the age of 84, he was still winning on the tennis court. He had such a calm demeanor and a positive outlook. As you've heard, the power of positive thinking. He was a glass half full kind of person. I would add, it was a glass overflowing kind of person. He was able to keep calm no matter what. Isaiah shared the story of driving the car for the first time and bumping the fender, and worried that his Zadie would be angry with him, and he just took it in stride, as he did with so many things. He was persistent. He met Marilyn at a temple dance near Tommy. He asked for a number. She wasn't so interested, wasn't quite taken with him as he was with her. And I'm told that she wrote in shorthand on the window of the car, signaling to the girlfriend who was in the car, not interested, in shorthand. And fortunately, her girlfriend paid no attention to that, gave him her number, and well, persisted, as you've heard. 6 years, 3 proposals, 8 weeks of basic training, and they were married, sharing 67 years of life and love. He served a grateful nation in the U.S. Army with boundless energy, I'm told. Even the sweltering heat of Washington, D.C. could not deter him, nor long walks in the city of Boston. He was a calm person. Eric shared a story about wine at a Passover Seder. And, well, Eric didn't think it was really the best wine that was there. And he was trying to warn everybody off and didn't realize that a guest had brought it as a gift for the table. And without missing a beat, Yale picked up a glass of this wine, sipped it, and announced, "This is delicious," and just calmed everything down. Even as his health declined, he would say, "Why be upset? What can I do about it?" He made every effort to do as much as was within his power to do. Marilyn shared a very sweet story of in these last days. Yale knew that Marilyn loved to have her back scratched, and in bed would arrange for Marilyn to lay her head on his chest so that he could reach her back and scratch her back. Who is rich? The one who is satisfied with their lot. As you heard, he was a frugal individual and very generous to his family and to those in need. Put all the kids through college, encouraging them, as you've heard, to pursue their dreams. There were family trips with kids and grandkids, and the cousins so deeply appreciate the closeness that they now enjoy because of those family trips. He shared his learning with colleagues who would often tell his children that they learned so much from their father from Yale. He was kind and loving to his sister and her children in so many ways. He did not take life for granted. After the heart attack and in his 50s, Marilyn put him on a strict predicate diet, as you've heard, and traveled to California to learn more about it. Bonus years. They would say, "I never thought I would live this long." Who is honored? The one who honors others. Yale treated people with great respect. Who was interested in your story. Who was interesting and interested. The kids shared with me that their friends all knew him because he would ask questions and be engaged with them. He did for others without question. Yale showed up and somehow was able to, even though working, and he was able to attend the kids' activities. I'm told he was a driving instructor for several cousins and family members. And he taught sports, as you've heard. Ever ready for a game of catch. And there for Marilyn, with their 3 kids under 2 as well. It wasn't quite the piece of cake, but he was there. The kids are close and there for each other and grateful for that. He brought their spouses To Barbara, he said, "Don't worry, you're a Kaplan now." Always ready to pick up and host family, as long as the drive to the airport wasn't necessarily during rush hour. His 90th birthday, went around the room and was able to say something very specific and special about each person there. Lived a full life. He was a loving husband, adored his children and grandchildren and great-granddaughter, Leora. I'm told that he actually was able to give Leora rides on his scooter in his last days. Yale was an inspiration to his family on how to live a good life, with this philosophy of the power of positive thinking. He will be missed by all of us who were touched by his love, by his spirit. Yale Kaplan was rich, he was wise, he was strong, and he was honored. May his memory continue to be a blessing to each and every one of us. Amen. I invite those who are able to please rise for our memorial prayer. Yale Maleva.
On the inside of our pamphlets, we read the translation of Elamale Rachamim. Compassionate God, eternal spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Yale Kaplan, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
Please be seated. The interment will take place at Memorial Park Cemetery at 9900 Grosse Point Road in Skokie. We will not be traveling in procession. Rather, for everyone's safety, we will meet at the cemetery at approximately 11:45 for the interment service. The family will receive calls of condolence today at the Lodge Solstice Room at 2150 Founders Drive in Northbrook, today upon return from the cemetery until 8 p.m. And then Wednesday at the Kaplan residence at 2220 Founders Drive in Northbrook, where they will receive calls of condolence from the hours of 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. At this time, I will ask for everyone to please rise and stand in place. We will ask for the pallbearers to please follow behind the casket as we exit the sanctuary. Once we have exited the sanctuary, we'll ask for everyone to please go directly to your cars. Thank you.
I'll go back to the